Why is it buffering? Okay, here we go.
Okay, awesome.
Recording in progress.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Abunawaj Berry from Berry Chine Flap, and today we're here with Dr. Ravi Margasahayam. I'll call him Dr. Ravi for the rest of this interview. He is such a great Indian NASA scientist. In fact, the first Indian scientist at NASA to successfully launch a space probe. And not just that, he did it 4, maybe even 5 times. I'm forgetting the number. So he is such a great scientist. He's pursued so many things in life. And I wanted to interview him in order to get a view of what he has done in his life and the lessons he has learned from all of these great experiences he's had. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Ravi Margasahayam. I'm NASA's Global Space Ambassador, and also I support the US Embassy in India as an ambassador for India. And right now, I'm not doing much of VIP tours for NASA, but mostly international public speaking around the world.
All right. So I have all the questions right here. Unfortunately, I couldn't memorize them because there were just so many questions to ask about your great life. So are we ready to begin?
Yeah, whatever you want to ask, no problem.
All right. So first of all, there were probably so many people with stereotypes here asking, how can an Indian work at NASA? You're the first Indian scientist who's been there, as far as I know.
Yes. Well, there were other Indian scientists, but working on the launch pad, I was the first Indian person of Indian origin, I would say. Well, I was an American, but I was not born American, as you know. I was born in India, in Mumbai, but I came to America. I think it's important that I want to stress upon your audience saying that, when you dream, the world will collude with you to make it happen, like Paulo Coelho from Alchemist says. So it's very important for you to dream big. And even a lot of times, if you don't climb the Mount Everest, just going to the base camp of Mount Everest or even climbing, fourth, stage, that's pretty good, basically fourth base camp, that's pretty good. So my recommendation to you is dream big and keep on persevering and not give up on your dreams,
That's a great message. And I'm sure you have a reason for talking about Mount Everest, but we'll get to that part later. So how did you work on the launch pad? What did you do there?
Well, that's a good question. Actually, it's interesting. I just wanted to let you know about how I got into NASA. So when I went to NASA after working for Boeing 10 years, my dream always was to be a pilot. And when I came to when I was in India, I saw an Indian movie called Sangam, and this movie really propelled me into thinking about becoming a pilot, so I can marry a beautiful girl and go around the world.
Wow.
It didn't happen, as you know. I married a beautiful girl, went around the world, never became a pilot. But as Leonardo da Vinci says, if I can't fly, let the flight be for others. So with that, I came to America, and I always wanted to work in space. But I ended up working in railroads. And as I moved into NASA, they asked me, I said, have you seen a rocket? I said, no. Have you launched a rocket? I said, no. The only rocket I've launched is one in Diwali in India. These are bottle rockets. So they were like saying, how do I get you a job in NASA with the rockets? And I said, look, do you have a car? Does it vibrate when you go on a bump? He said, yeah. Do you have it? Do you sit in a train? That vibrates. Plane vibrates. So I said, look, it's not about the vehicle you are sitting in. It's about the vibration. So I can solve your vibration problems for the rockets. And that was my first job at NASA. I'm the leading expert in the world on vibroacoustics. So what does vibroacoustics means? Acoustics means sound. So every time you have a rocket lift off, you generate tremendous amount of sound. And people clap, but as an engineer, I'm worried about my launch pad. I'm worried about the rocket. I'm worried about the people inside the rocket and stuff like that. So I study the acoustics or sound generated by the rocket and see how it affects the vibration of structures. Because if you want to go to Moon or Mars, and if a rocket vibrates like crazy on the ground, then it doesn't matter where you want to go, because the structure is damaged already and you can't you will be reaching there without anything. So the mission is failed right at the beginning.
Wow. So it looks like the job you have at NASA, or the job you had at NASA before becoming Global Space Ambassador, was a very important one, and that vibroacoustics plays a very large role in missions being successful. Is there anything else you want to say about your studies?
Yeah, well, I launched about 100 rockets, each costing about 500 million each, and we launched about 700 astronauts to space. So, when you talk about launching a rocket without humans, that's a different story. But we had 3 million parts on the rocket. So all these 3 million parts have to work together uniformly, consistently, and reliably. If you make one tiny mistake, you have seen recently about SpaceX launch, which the launch lifted off, but then immediately it blew up basically. So we didn't have many failures like that, except maybe Challenger, I would say. But in the early part of the career, a lot of failures were related to vibroacoustics. So you may have a $5 billion payload like alpha magnetic spectrometer going to the ISS, but if you fail right at the liftoff, then it doesn't matter where you're going in the mission. So vibroacoustics plays a very important role, and it plays a very important role in the first 3 minutes of the launch. And it's very important that you understand that. If you don't understand that, you might as well not launch rockets.
Wow. So it's great that you potentially save billions of dollars in costs from damaged rockets. So vibroacoustics is clearly a very important field. And after this interview with you, I'll never look at rockets the same way.
Yes, you are totally right. If I have a quote, for you, what is right stuff? Right stuff means people go in space, right? The astronauts. So for the right stuff to go in space reliably, we want the right staff on the ground, which launches them safely, and that's my quote. And a lot of times, an interesting thing for you, when people start clapping, they're only clapping for the high frequency sounds. So what is high frequency? Anything about 20 hertz, which human ear can hear, 20 to 20,000 cycles per second or hertz. That is very important, and people clap for that. But as a vibroacoustics engineer, I don't worry about clapping because I know what is important. One below 20 hertz, the sounds I can't hear on the launch pad affects us. So basically, the below 20 hertz, they don't create any sound, but they have long wavelengths because of the speed of sound. And what they do is they travel long distances, and they can create a havoc with you. And that's what I'm looking at. And so I stand about 15,000 feet at the speed of sound at 1,100 feet per second. It takes about 15 seconds for me to, my shirt starts vibrating. And then I know that the rocket is safe.
Wow. So it's clearly a very skilled profession, and I can see that you have a lot of skill in it. And speaking of Challenger and other disasters, I just want to ask you, I know that one of the most major space missions that you launched was the Columbia mission, and I know that a very important astronaut, I think Kaulana Chawla, the first Indian astronaut, was set on that mission. Unfortunately, it was a big tragedy. But I did hear that she was able to communicate with the Indian Indian President, Dr. Kalam. So how is it possible to communicate with someone thousands of miles away from you?
Well, we have a communication system in space, basically, with radios, waves, and other things. But also, NASA has many technologies. Now we can communicate to you over laser beams also. So the first launch of Kalpana Chawla, she was the first Indian woman to go to space. And I have the honor and privilege to launch that first Indian woman to space. And in 1997, on a mission called STS-87. Now, the second time she launched again in 2003 on Columbia. And that's where we lost her, basically. And I still today think that, we could have avoided that accident. So in my 100 launches at Kennedy Space Center on my watch, we only lost one. But not during launching. Launching, I never lost anything. Only she had a problem during landing. But again, launching creates a problem because there is a lot of vibration. So one of the foams coming from the external tank, which is the orange tank, it broke off and then hit the leading edge of the rocket, and it made a pinhole. And from there, the plasma entered and they got killed. So out of 3 million parts, remember, we only got about 84,000 parts after walking about 100 miles in the Texas wilderness. So every day I go into the museum in NASA, I cry because, we could have avoided that problem, And so from that point on, I made sure that I always fought against NASA, and I have if you want to talk about it, my 18 scar on my heart, I can talk about it a little bit.
Oh no. We'll have to rejoin the Zoom meeting after a little bit because my free trial is ending. But the Columbia disaster was very sad. Thank you for making more people aware about it. And I hope that we never see a disaster like Challenger or Columbia again. We truly lost some great people on those two missions. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Even losing one astronaut is a big deal. Even losing the mission without astronauts is a big deal because, each rocket cost me $5 billion. And, if you lose that rocket, it's more than money. It's the prestige and the name for NASA. NASA is like a gold standard. So when I wear my NASA logo, maybe you can't see it, but I'll show it to you in my T-shirt. That tells you that we are the gold standard. You go around the world, that symbolizes the excellence in technology and technical field. And it's very important that what is important is that we learn lessons from failure, like you said earlier. So my job in NASA now is to talk about failures and how to avoid failures.
Wow. So is that what you do as a global space ambassador?
Well, I do teach about STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. We talk about space. We talk about inspiring people. Most importantly, I want to give self-esteem to the students and the kids around the world. Because after launching 700 people in space, one common trait, which I asked all the astronauts who I was working with, they said one thing, Dr. Ravi, you want to teach the kids or the people of the world is self-esteem. Once you have self-esteem, you can do anything in life.
Wow, that's a great lesson, truly. You can do anything once you have that confidence. So,
yes.
Yeah.
It's not self-confidence is not the same as self-esteem. Confidence is more related to your skill, but self-esteem is the worth. What do you value yourself in this world, So for me, and I'm not worried about somebody being multi-billionaire because what I did, they'll never do it because I launched like a probe to the sun, probe to, Hubble in my first year. I launched probe to Venus, Jupiter, things like that. So basically for me, I'm not comparing apples to apples, because for me, what I did, nobody can buy that.
Of course. So I just want to talk about what you said right at the end. So how did you launch? Those probes like Magellan to Venus? How did you launch Hubble telescope? How did you launch Ulysses? And how did you launch Galileo to, I think, Jupiter? How did you launch?
Yeah. Well, basically, what we do is we have a plan. NASA plans everything. Planning is more important than a plan. And also what is important is that the mission has to be correctly placed in orbit or whatever, depending upon if there are more solar flares in this particular season, we don't do that. We don't launch to the sun. Or if there's a problem with Venus, we have to launch it at a correct orbit or correct attitude so that, it reaches Venus in the right time. And we want to take the shortest amount of time to reach a particular planet. Because if you want to go to, say, Mars, Mars can be like maybe 50 million, 60 million miles up to 100 million miles. So I don't want to launch when it's 100 million miles away from Earth. I want to launch when it's closest, right? So I launch and I get the exact window to launch. And we take typically probes to go inside a rocket. And inside the rocket, we put it inside the payload compartment of the space shuttle. And space shuttle was a unique, a bird, we call it, or a rocket, we call it. It's cathedral of technology. My mom used to, when I was growing up in India, my mom used to tell me, there's a Pushpak Viman, there's God gods will sit in this Pushpak Viman. It's a white swan, and it will come down to earth, And I said, Mom, there is no such thing as that. Gods don't come down earth. When I see the space shuttle, when I came to NASA, I thought it was a Pushpak Viman, really. It goes up like a rocket, comes down like a glider. And the 7 people come as if they come from almost 17,500 miles per hour to almost 0 miles per hour. And these are the people, our astronauts, who really tough their life and try to take the payload, or payload in this case would be a probe going to Mars or going to Jupiter or going to Venus. They take it out and put it in the orbit in around 300 miles above the Earth. And from there, we fire another set of rockets called booster rockets. Okay, so these booster rockets will take them to the particular planet and the trajectory.
Wow. So it's a very complicated thing. No wonder people are clapping when it lands, because it's such a complicated orchestra, and it's so great to see how you play such a big part in how these probes land and how they go to their destination.
Correct. Mission success is very important for us. Mission success starts with engineering excellence, and engineering excellence starts with safety. So basically, I was not only a systems engineer on the launch pad, but I was also a safety engineer. So and later on in my career, I built along with my team members, we built the International Space Station, which is a $250 billion item. So imagine you are building your 5-bedroom house. Okay, on the ground, it's very simple, because you go and get a part from the store and you put it together. It's static. But how do you launch something in space, and as it is traveling around the world, 17,500 miles per hour, or almost 28,000 kilometers per hour. And as it is going, we have to send our rocket from Cape Canaveral or Kennedy Space Center and go and dock with that space vehicle. And then our astronauts have to go out and fix all the lines, like the plumbing lines, the electrical lines, and all that. So, every single item on the space station was built like that. So it is a tremendous, tremendous achievement for humankind. And I call it the Taj Mahal in the skies, or Earth Observation Station. So like when you go to the beach, who is taking care of you? The lifeguard. So if there's a shark, he will call the lifeguard will take care of you. But who is taking care of Mother Earth? Nobody. So International Space Station is looking at Earth. So when you see in the morning, get up in the morning, you see only one sunset and one sunrise per day. I see 16 of them in space. How about that? So that means we are monitoring more and more and more.
Wow, that's truly magnificent. And with the amount of effort that goes into putting a spaceship, and especially the ISS itself, you can definitely call it a Taj Mahal in the sky. So yeah, a lot of work goes into that. So I want to ask you, this is more of a personal question instead of a science question. How did you come to the US from India?
Well, as I said, I was a small boy growing up. My whole playground those days was India. I was born in India. Then I went to Myanmar, which is Burma now. Burma, which is Myanmar now, which is next door to India. And then I grew up in Kabul, Afghanistan. So my father worked in all these places. And 1964, I think I told you, I came back to Mumbai and saw this movie called Sangam. Sangam is Union. And in that movie, there was a pilot. And always in your life, you want to see a trigger. It's called the calling, what you want to do in life. What is your purpose in life? And that movie really was the first color movie in India. And also, I was fascinated with the pilot who went around the world, like London, Paris, Switzerland, and all that. So that really made me think about flying. But my father said no money for flying. And my mother said, if you fly, you die. So I was left with nothing. So then finally, I went to school in Mumbai. But the problem was I didn't get good grades. So I was a very poor student. I was the introvert. I was a failure. I didn't get good grades. So I couldn't get admission in Mumbai. So my mom took me to Bangalore to put me into engineering. And that was the start of something great, because the dream was for me to become an engineer. But she never thought that I would become a NASA engineer. So it is very, I mean, when I was sleeping on the terrace in Mumbai, I would look at sun. I mean, sun and moon, that's about it. That's all we knew. We didn't know about other planets, and we didn't know much about other stars and all that, because we're not that, educated. There was no internet. There was no, things, a lot of, like, we didn't have a globe to understand where other parts of the world are. So when time came in 75, my parents were in Middle East. And then when I went to Middle East, there is hardly anything to do. So my father said, you have to go away from Middle East and try to, work in some other country so you can become a better engineer. And that's how I came to America. I came as a tourist. I didn't have money. I didn't even have.
Oh shoot. I forgot about that. Oh shoot. It's not done. We will be back momentarily. Please wait for a few seconds or a few minutes. What? What do you mean my mic was? Okay. Okay. So we'll be back momentarily. Our free limit expired, so that's why.
In any college. I just had TOEFL. So luckily for me, I had 6 weeks visa. So in the meanwhile, I got admission into IIT Chicago, and then from there, we applied for a conversion from tourist to student visa, and then I studied at IIT, and then I got a job, and then that's the story now. Because I always wanted to work for an aerospace company, so I joined Boeing after my engineering studies, and Boeing and NASA. 10 years in Boeing, I worked in helicopters and planes and commercial planes and all that, and then last 30 years in NASA. So yeah, it was a long journey. I would call it serendipity. Because why? Because I was looking only to fly, but now I got much more than that. I joined NASA, and I was launching probes to the entire universe. So remember, my whole world was India, Burma, and Pakistan, the Indian subcontinent. Now my whole playground was the whole universe. So we were going to Mars, we are going to many parts of the universe, Hubble and other missions, the sun and everything basically. So
Wow. It's great to see that you were able to get a new life and you were able to get an education like the one you and your family always desired. And it's great to see where you ended up now. You've ended far past where you thought you would go, and you've exceeded everyone's expectations. You've really done well for. You've really done well. You've broken barriers everywhere, and you're honestly one of the most accomplished people I've ever met.
thank you. Thank you. I think, like you said earlier, when we dream, the world will collude with you to make it happen. So you keep on dreaming and then you keep on not giving up. I think those two are the most important things. And, another thing is, I lost 20 years of my life. There's a quote by Chinese quote. It says, if you want a tree in front of your house, you should have planted a seed 20 years ago. But if you didn't, then you plant the seed now. Okay, then you'll get a tree 20 years later. So I lost 20 years of my life being shy, introvert, not risk-taking, being a failure. Also, introvert, as I called you. And so basically, it's very important that you don't go through all that. You have high self-esteem. Once you have high self-esteem, you can almost get anything done. So I tell people, I said, look, by taking risks, you may lose, but if you don't take risks, you will always be a failure or loser. And fear was another problem with me. Fear has two meanings: forget everything and run up the hill, or face everything and rise. So the choice is always yours. Do you want to ask me that question about Tenzing Norgay, or you want me to tell you about that, how I met Tenzing Norgay, the first person to climb Mount Everest?
Yeah, I know. He's a very, he was a very accomplished person. And what lessons did you learn from him when you talked with him?
Yeah, great. I mean, Tenzing also maybe 6-7 times he could climb Mount Everest. He failed. In the end, he was never giving up. He said, "I'm going to climb one day." So when it so happened by chance, we were in Darjeeling in 1973. I was 20 years old, and I was looking for some postcards of Tenzing and Hillary climbing Mount Everest. And I went to the store, and the storekeeper said, "Sorry, sir, I don't have any postcards of Tenzing climbing Mount Everest. But what I can do is I can share this person with you. His name is Tenzing." And I said, where is he? That person sitting in the corner. I was shocked. So I immediately grabbed him. We took him out, took some pictures. And then he said, Ravi, look, you are a young guy. You're trying to climb Mount Everest. Don't climb it. Because when you were born in 53, that's the year I climbed Mount Everest. So Mount Everest is taken. So find your own peak. So my message to all the kids today is don't follow my footsteps. Like Robert Frost says, take the path least traveled or never traveled and create a footprint, in the sand, basically. So it's very important that you define your own peak. So what was my peak? My peak was, I was looking at him. He said, climb a higher peak than Mount Everest. I was looking at him. I said, how is that possible? There is no higher peaks on Earth. But what he didn't say was, he didn't talk about just Earth. He said there may be in the solar system. So today we know that Olympus Mons on Mars is 3 times taller than Mount Everest. But now I never went to Olympus Mons, but my company NASA, or my entity NASA, they are flying helicopters on Mars. They are going to the base camp. So how many people can say that I've seen the base camp of Olympus Mons? So really, it's not important that you achieve your goal, but you achieve at least part of your goal. And Tenzing, one thing he beautifully said, that don't follow me, follow your own passion. Okay? Follow your own dream. Everybody, look at my 5 fingers. Each one is different. I don't know why. I want God to give me all 5 fingers same, but he didn't. So it's important that we have to follow our own passion. So if you don't have passion or a killer instinct, like my wife says, you're not going anywhere. You have to achieve that. Like, let's say I want to become an astronaut, then you have to go after it. Or if I you want me to talk a little bit about Dr. Kalam, the Indian president? Yeah, so when he came to NASA, I am a VIP tour guide for NASA. So I took care of a lot of kings, queens, ambassadors, and everybody, including Shah Rukh Khan for the movie Swadesh, and Margaret Thatcher, Prince Charles, and many, many people. So when Dr. Kalam came, he was a genius. He was a former president of India. He was a missile man of India. And he was also the rocket man of India. And I see a beautiful flag of India behind you. So it's amazing to see that. He said, Dr. Ravi, I'm jealous or envious of you. I said, how can this person be envious of a tiny guy like me? I'm nobody in this world. And he said, yeah, you are somebody. You know why? Because you launched the first Indian woman to space, and you launched 700 humans to space. I did everything. I became a president. I launched rockets, but I never launched humans to space. You're the first one. So you're the real astronaut maker of NASA. So I have a picture of him with my father on one side and him standing on the other side. That picture I cannot recreate now. My father is gone in 2020. Dr. Kalam is gone. So I'm only alive today. So that tells you that there are moments in life, they never come back. So you experience everything and you try to do your best to give back to the world. You didn't bring anything to this world. You're not going to take anything. What you're going to leave behind is the legacy. So what is my legacy? My legacy is that I launched many, many humans to space, and I launched the Hubble. I built the space station. Yes, I didn't do it alone. My whole team did it. So no one person can launch a rocket.
Wow. So, it's so great that you're not just acknowledging your own efforts, but also the efforts of everyone around you. That really shows how humble you are.
Well, you have to be humble in this business, because one tiny mistake you do, space is very unforgiving. You make one tiny mistake, you don't get a second chance in space. So we have to be not 100% certain, 1,000%, 10,000% certain. So we lost many, many days. I used to sleep at work. I used to forget my family, forget my daughter was just born. We didn't care about that, because our passion was to launch the rocket right. Because these men and women, they were part of our family, And in regards to that, I want to tell you a little bit about Apollo 13. Apollo 13 is one of the most beautiful examples of what we call as successful failure. So I call a coin, on one side is success, the other side is failure. But the edge is the successful failure. So why we call it successful failure? Because we failed to land on the moon on Apollo 13. But what we did was we brought the men back. So these three men who are stuck about 200,000 miles from Earth, we could have just said, okay, we let them die. But we didn't do that, because these were our family. So we said, these three men were beyond the physical reach of humankind. So you fall in a pool, I can give you a hand and get you out. But what do you do when you're 200,000 miles away? So these three men were beyond the physical reach of humankind, but not beyond the reach of human intelligence, imagination, and ingenuity. With those words, whole NASA and 1 million people around the world worked together to get this man back. So it is a fantastic example of what humankind can do. You as a person, not as a tiny person, as a young kid, no, you can do anything. That's my announcement to you.
Yes, I know. With the right mindset, you can do anything. There are no barriers. So it's great to see that so many people cooperated to bring these three great people back from the void of space. And as you said, losing Apollo 13 would have been losing three great people, because astronauts are prestigious. They are very important. They're like part of your family at that point when you've been working at NASA for so long. Oh, so many.
Yeah, well, definitely. I have had many, many astronauts, and you can Google her name, Pamela Melroy. Pamela Melroy. She's my hero or heroine. She was the one who gave me my highest award in NASA, called the Silver Snoopy. Snoopy is the Snoopy dog from Disney, and there's a pin made out of that, silver pin. It goes to space, comes back, and then NASA selects the best people in the whole of NASA, and only 1% or 1% of the people get it, and you never get it twice. And this astronaut comes and gives me the award. And that was in 96, Pamela Melroy gave me. And she sort of kicked my behind, saying, I want you to be the best in the world in lectures, engineering, and everything else. And today, she's number 2 in whole of NASA. She's the deputy administrator of NASA. Okay. And she went to Desert Storm, Desert Shield. She knows how to fly 50 different aircrafts. And she's flown 3 times in space. I have launched her in space. And she is now number 2 of whole of NASA. You can Google her name. She's my hero, And every day we connect with her sometimes on LinkedIn and other things. So that is the kind of, I always tell people, don't demand respect, command respect. So we have a very healthy relationship between Pam and me. Why? Because not that I'm great, really. I'm not even born American. I am a naturalized American. But it's not about that. It's about what you do for the society, what you give back to the world. How do you, pay it forward? Like in America, we say. And that's what you're doing. You're paying it forward.
So thank you. Clearly, you have a great mentor. One day I want to meet Pamela Malroy, and it's so great that you have received the highest award that any astronaut or any space scientist or astronomer in general could receive, because you definitely deserve it. You're one of the most honorable people that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I just want to tell you one last thing, which is very, very near and dear to me. In 2003, Kalpana Chawla died. She was 2 feet away from me when she went to the launch pad. And, in Colombia, she perished. And Pamela Melroy was one of the people who were involved with the accident investigation. And I told you, out of 3 million parts, we only got 84,000 parts. After walking 100 miles, hand to hand, 10 miles wide, we found only 84,000 parts. But it's interesting that, one time, there's a book. If you want to buy that book from Amazon, it's called Infinite Worlds. It's by Michael Soluri, and it has a picture of 4 astronauts on top. I can give you that book as a gift if you want, And so, that book, I wrote the last chapter. That book was supposed to be written by only astronauts. So that book came about because we had a problem on the launch pad in STS-124. We lost 2,500 bigs, on the launch. And the next launch was Hubble repaired. So I went against the entire NASA management and fought against them because of Kalpana Chawla's demise in 2003. So some of the people in NASA, they wanted to fire me, and I had a big stress problem. I ended up in the hospital. I have an 8-inch scar on my heart, on my chest, which is a quadruple bypass. It's still there. But that, at that time I was working on the launch pad, and Michael, who was the author of this book, he took my picture. I didn't know that this picture will ever end up anywhere, because he had taken 2 million pictures on Hubble. So what happened was, when he started writing the book, he wrote the book with 17 astronauts. And the Simon & Schuster, which is the publishing company, they said, we don't want to publish this book because it only has astronauts. We want some real staff on the ground who launch astronauts to space. So Michael had to take some people off, and then he put about 7 people in my group, including my launch director, to write the book. So that's how I wrote the last chapter. Now, I was standing on the launch pad where man went to moon. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin went to moon on Apollo 11. That's the same launch pad I was standing. And it came in the book. Then we retired the space shuttle in 2011. We built $250 million museum in NASA. And the curator of the museum said, okay, we are going to put Atlantis rocket here because we don't have Columbia. It's done. It's damaged. We don't have Challenger. It's gone. So only we have Discovery, which went to Smithsonian in DC. And we have Endeavour, which went to California State Museum. So the only thing left was Atlantis. So we kept it here. So when he asked, the curator of the museum said, give me your best 40 pictures. So Michael sent one of my pictures. And my picture was right under the space shuttle for 5 years. Okay. Wow. And so here is a space shuttle where I launched that many times to space. Then I'm an astronaut maker. And then you won't believe that there was this empty area near my picture opposite to my wall. And NASA made a Columbia and Challenger Museum there, memorial there. And look at how ironic life is. This is, I call it, sharing space with life and death, So here is a beautiful bird, which is a space shuttle there. which astronauts used. There is a dead astronauts, and here is the astronaut maker, me, all in one room, I mean, even if you write a script like that for Hollywood or Bollywood, it won't happen.
Wow.
My journey cannot be repeated again from Bombay, the gateway of India to gateway to space. My journey cannot be repeated. And why it happened, I don't know. Bless you. Bless you. You don't know why it will happen, but you believe in serendipity and it will happen.
Sometimes life truly is crazier than anything Hollywood or Bollywood can offer. So it's so great what you've done. So many unbelievable things have happened to you in your life. I can't put this into words, but I read a little bit about the STS missions, and I heard that they were retired because of the Columbia disaster. So, did you play any part in the retirement of the STS beyond protesting against the death of Kaulan Chawla?
No, we were very upset at Columbia because we were unhappy because of certain decisions taken by the upper management. And if you look at the Columbia Accident Investigation Board, they have certain responsibilities dedicated to NASA management when NASA managers didn't heed the advice of some of the engineers and stuff like that. So that's why I fought again at STS 124, which happened in 2009, 6 years later. And I was fighting with them not because I wanted to delay the launch. Each delay cost me $1 million. So it was very important for me not to delay. But I wanted to make sure the launch was safe, because that was the last Hubble repair mission. And now look at what Hubble has done since 2009. It has given us beautiful, beautiful pictures of the universe, because that's the last time we repaired it. And that's why, it's important that you speak out. That's another thing I want you to stand up for your rights and everybody's rights. If I come to you and say 2 plus 2 is 5, you have to fight it out. You say, no, it's 2 plus 2 is 4, So, when you're right, you stand up. Whether you are nobody or somebody or you are a NASA buddy, it doesn't matter. You have to stand up, because in the end, safety and engineering is more important. You lose one life, it's bad, basically. Your prestige goes down the tubes, So I was not involved in the decision making. I was very upset that they retired the shuttle in 2011. It was one of the most beautiful vehicles. Anybody has designed it. There will be no vehicle like that in the history of mankind again, I can guarantee. As an engineer, I can tell you that nobody will build a shuttle because it was a very complex machine, but it could do many things. And no vehicle, no rocket in this country and any country in the world is doing that, because we launched 135 shuttles total, okay? And I launched 100 total along with my team. So I was only gone for 35 rockets. I know what it did. I know what it is capable of. I know what kind of payload it gave. I know what kind of help it gave mankind. So if you want to ask me, what is your legacy, Dr. Ravi? So what I'll tell you is, if you remember, mankind came from Africa. And we came over 1 million years ago, 500,000, 100,000 years ago, near the Horn of Africa. From there, mankind went all over the universe, Earth, right? So they spread 60,000 years to India, 40,000 to America, many parts of the world they walked and they traversed. So what has mankind done? 2 things he has done: transporting himself and communicating, because we had smoke signals, we have drums, many kinds of signals. So in 60,000 years, nothing happened, really. All we have done is gone around the earth, 10,000 miles or 9,000 miles. So yes, we have done a lot of things, but we didn't do much, okay, in 10,000 years or 20,000 years of mankind. But in last 60 years, what NASA has done, it's amazing. We have touched far corners of the universe. I've sent probes beyond the solar system in Voyager 1, Voyager 2. They're still talking to us after going into the interstellar space. Now my helicopter, 500 years ago, Leonardo da Vinci was flying helicopters. We are flying now on Mars. And I worked in Boeing helicopters in Philadelphia, building helicopters. So look at 500 years ago, and my job in 1980s. And now we are flying a helicopter on Mars. So what I'm trying to impress upon you is, We did the next frontier. Mankind always stayed on Earth. Now I put him in space, low Earth orbit. So mankind has extended his frontier to live and work in space. So that is my legacy. How I did that? By putting the International Space Station for more than 20 years now. And that will be a most beautiful legacy of mankind, that we can now live and work in space, in low Earth orbit. With that will help us to go to the next frontier, the moon, then Mars and beyond.
Wow. It's great that humanity is always choosing the next frontier. It's so crazy to me that something that I cannot touch with my hand, that is thousands of kilometers away, hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. And in the case of Mars, almost millions of kilometers away. It's so great that we're able to put our feet on it, that we're able to touch those foreign surfaces and spread ourselves through all of these new and different corners of the universe. And I appreciate how you're helping us do that. I honestly can't put into words just how accomplished you are. You're one of the best people I've ever met, even though I've said that so many times. I can't manage to overstate it. I just don't understand how someone can accomplish so much in their life. And I'm so glad, honestly, that the human race has people like you out there to guide mankind.
Thank you. Really, and I think somebody said the other day that the feathers in your cap is full of feathers. But I said, no, there are more feathers to come. What I haven't done is, inspiring the next generation of engineers and scientists and stuff like that. And I'm just an ordinary person in an extraordinary space. And today I'm with you, and I'm so blessed and honored, and the amount of things you have done in your career, and you have a long way. I'm really jealous that I'm not 10 or 12. So, no, I wish you the best of luck. But just to say one thing is that, my feather, the golden feather in the cap is like, when I take youngsters, who in India, I'm mentoring a lot of people in India and other parts of the world. And I want to take these people, and I tell people, I said, my name, you Google my name, and it's gold standard in the world. Dr. Ravi Margasahayam is a gold standard. But now I want you to make not a gold standard. Gold you cannot polish, shine. I want you to make a diamond standard. Why? Because I can polish, cut, and make the carrot, or cut the carrot and make it more brighter and shiny by polishing it. And that's my goal. My goal is to give back to the world, and I call it making the masters. What is masters? Master is one who is not measured by the number of students he has, but by the number of masters he creates. So let's say I create you as a master. Then you are a master. You'll create more masters and more masters like that. So that is my goal in life, and that's my dream in life, and give back to the world. So not because I want a name. I'm not a rich person or a very well-known person. I call it, if you want to really take a pot shot at me, you can call me not a slumdog millionaire, but a slumdog rocket scientist. So I take a pot shot at me, and yeah, I'm not afraid to speak up my mind, because I know I'm speaking up the truth. And also I'm a good person. I want to give back to the world, not take from the world. Our world has given me enough. Now it's my time to give back. And that's what my mentor told me. Pamela Melroy says, give back to the world, Ravi, give back to the world. And it's called paying it forward in America, as you know. So I've been doing that for last 6 years after my retirement. And I'll keep on doing that. And really, really appreciate you coming on board. I want to, you to buy the book. I'll pay for that if you want, So it's my gift. Next time I see you, I'll sign. I'll make sure that you'll meet Pamela Melroy one day. She's a beautiful, beautiful lady, a very, very big heart, and great mind. And one last thing I want to tell you. She's an eagle for me, and she always told me, Ravi, I want you to be an eagle. There are many crows and peacocks and other things on the ground, but I want you to be an eagle. So eagle is the highest and the most beautiful bird, which is the national bird of country's bird, national bird. And remember when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, what did we say? The eagle has landed. So they could have taken any bird's name, but they took eagle. So you can read about eagle. So for me, to make you an eagle is my dream, you and other people. I mean, you're already an eagle, or even bigger. You're a golden eagle. So I don't have to make you an eagle. But there are many people who are less fortunate that I want to help, Not that I'm a great guy. I'm not a smart, intelligent person. But what I have is the determination to almost achieve whatever I want.
If you were not a smart, intelligent person, you wouldn't be where you are today with all of your hard work and especially your self-esteem, your self-value, and your self-worth. That all contributes to that. If you believe that you won't do anything, then you won't do anything. But if you believe that you can change the world, then you can change the world. I heard that quote from someone. I don't exactly remember who, but it's one of the most powerful things I've ever heard.
Yes, sir. Definitely. And as I said, anytime you want to talk to me, you're welcome. If you want to come to Florida, I'll take you on a tour of the Kennedy Space Center and show you around what I did for my last 30 years of my life, which is my passion. And, it was an amazing journey for me. And one other thing I didn't mention is I still go around the world giving lectures. So I'm heading to Chennai in India to give a lecture at Hindustan University. I'm going to Brazil for Air Azul, which is the airline company. So I keep on doing this all over the world. I've done it about 6 continents. My wife says, now let's go to Antarctica. I said, who do you want me to lecture there? Oh, there are penguins and seals there, so they will listen to you. So I'm going to touch my 7th continent. So again, I really appreciate your time and so late, but thank you for being here and giving me an opportunity to speak up my mind and tell people, that, if you want to become famous like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, they say one thing you have to do is learn from your own mistakes, but learn from others' mistakes. And that's how they became great. So failure is a quintessential thing for, you becoming success. Success through failure is the path.
Yes, it is. I've had such a great talk with you. Thank you so much for spending your time. You are the best person, the most accomplished person I've ever interviewed. And I hope I get to see you again. And I hope that I'm also able to contact Pamela Melroy. She seems like a very great person and a great role model based on how you've talked about her.
Yeah, she's a role model not only for me but for the whole country. So thank you again, and please do come and visit us. And next time I'm in DC. My daughter lives in DC, so we'll come and see you around there somewhere. So,
of course, thank you, Dr. Ravi.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you. Have a good day and good night.
Good night.
Yeah, it's too late for you. So you're going to put it on YouTube after some time, I guess. And let me share the link with me when you get a chance. No hurry.
Oh, of course, of course. In fact, this is live right now. So I'll send you that live recording right now as soon as this is over. All right?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
You have a nice day. Good. Have a nice weekend.
Okay. Good night, Dr.
Make America proud and make your family proud. Thank you.
Of course.
Bye.
Have a good night, Dr. Ravi.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Dark camera? Oh, yeah. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.